It's 2 p.m. on Tuesday, September 2nd, here in Korea. Live from Seoul, I'm Laah Hyun-kyung. The stories we are following at this hour. Now, more signs emerge that North Korea is trying to reach out to the international community as the regime reportedly plans on sending high-level officials to Europe. Whether it be for financial reasons or the fast-changing banking environment, some 270 bank branches have closed down over the past year in Korea, the most since the 1997 Asian financial crisis. And who is to blame for the recent celebrity photo leak? It is believed to be the work of a hacker, and concerns rise about the security of Apple's iCloud storage service. In our top story this afternoon, North Korea appears to be making efforts to lessen its diplomatic isolation. Reports are coming in that a high-level official from North Korea's ruling Workers' Party is likely to start a European tour later this week. Here's our Hwang Sung-hee with this report.
A possible trip to Europe by a seasoned North Korean diplomat is drawing further attention to Pyongyang's recent diplomatic overture. Kang Seok-ju, secretary of the Central Committee of the Workers' Party of Korea, will reportedly visit Germany, Belgium, Switzerland, and Italy starting late this week. Experts say that given Kang's status in North Korea, his trip may serve a specific purpose. This as Pyongyang is accelerating its diplomacy with Washington. Senior U.S. officials reportedly visited North Korea last week on a military aircraft to discuss the issue of 3 American citizens detained in the north. North Korean Foreign Minister Lee Soo-young will be in New York City for the UN General Assembly that begins on September 24th. Speculation is ripe the two countries may revive their dormant communication channels. Europe has been the site of secret meetings between North Korea and the U.S. in the past. Kang may also lead high-level talks with Japan during his stay in Switzerland. His visit coincides with a seminar on the Japanese abduction issue slated for September 10th in Geneva, which senior Japanese officials are expected to attend. As Pyongyang takes strides to re-engage with Washington and Tokyo, some say Seoul could ultimately be the one left out of the diplomatic circle. Hwang Sung-hee, Arirang News.
And in another sign that Pyongyang could be trying to re-engage with Washington, the regime allowed 3 American citizens detained in North Korea to speak to CNN. Experts say the North is using the media to bring Washington to the negotiating table. Choi Yu-sun has more.
In an exclusive interview with CNN, the 3 American detainees said they were being treated humanely, but that they hoped Washington would soon help them return home. Kenneth Bae, serving a 15-year sentence for alleged hostile acts to overthrow the North Korean government, said he was doing hard labor 8 hours a day, 6 days a week. His diabetes, high blood pressure, and kidney stones have worsened, having gone back and forth between the hospital and the labor camp for the past 18 months. Asking the U.S. government to send an envoy to win their release, Bae said his only hope is returning home and seeing his family again. Matthew Todd Miller, awaiting trial after he ripped up his tourist visa and sought asylum in the North, said Washington, which often promotes its priority of protecting U.S. citizens, wasn't doing enough to help him. Jeffrey Edward Fowle, soon to stand trial after leaving a Bible at his hotel in the communist state, urged CNN to let the world know more about his predicament. Having no diplomatic relations with North Korea, the U.S. government's only contact with the men is through the Swedish embassy in Pyongyang. Stressing there is no greater priority than the welfare and safety of Americans abroad, the State Department urged Pyongyang to grant Kenneth Bae amnesty in light of his poor health. North Korea's strategic use of the media to seek dialogue with the U.S. is increasing pressure on the Obama administration ahead of the midterm elections in November. Now the question is whether Washington will send a former president or a prominent political figure as it has in the past to broker the detainees' release, and if that could lead to a resumption of dialogue between the U.S. and the North. 최유선, Arirang News.
Washington, meanwhile, is set to be done with its site survey that will determine where to deploy American anti-ballistic missile defenses. With North Korea continuing its threats, South Korea may be a prime spot. Kim Min-ji reports.
The United States has reportedly finished conducting site surveys of possible locations to deploy its advanced missile defense system in Korea. Sources familiar with the matter say Washington has been checking out feasible locations in Asia to deploy its terminal high-altitude area defense system and military effects since earlier this year. The so-called THAAD system can strike down medium and intermediate-range ballistic missiles mid-air. Washington is likely to make a final decision on a site before the Korea-U.S. Security Consultative meeting next month. It's been speculated that the U.S. has been pressuring Seoul to join its tactical missile system. The Korean government, which has been building its own missile defense capabilities, has not opposed Washington's plan, saying that it will help deter North Korea's nuclear missile abilities, as well as strengthen security on the peninsula. Another source said that the visit of U.S. Deputy Defense Secretary Robert Work last month probably had something to do with the THAAD system. During the visit, Work said that Washington hopes for extreme interoperability with Korea in the air defense system. However, the Defense Ministry in Seoul says it hasn't received any official notification from the U.S. regarding the issue. Kim Min-ji, Arirang News.
In light of the ongoing military conflict between Ukraine and Russia, NATO is taking measures to ensure that a similar situation does not occur in other parts of the region. The military alliance has announced plans to launch a rapid response force of thousands of troops. Connie Kim has the details.
NATO's plan to form a spearhead force of thousands of troops to protect its 28 member nations is widely expected to be approved during the NATO summit in Wales on Thursday. Although the ultimate size of the rapid response force has not been decided, senior officials at NATO say it will consist of an estimated 4,000 troops that could be deployed to an alliance state within 48 hours. It's designed to stave off a future crisis like the one unfolding in eastern Ukraine, where government forces are engaged with pro-Russian rebels. NATO Secretary General Anders Fogh Rasmussen said the task force would be trained to counter attacks by unidentified armed assailants, tactics NATO says pro-Russian separatists are employing against Ukrainian troops. It's a type of action that Ukraine and Baltic state members have been calling for since Russia annexed Crimea in March. There were questions about what type of measures NATO could take, considering the 1997 NATO-Russia Founding Act prohibits NATO from stationing soldiers in Eastern and Central Europe permanently. NATO officials say it'll rotate its combat forces in the Baltic states, which would not violate the treaty. NATO's move aims to stop a repeat of Russia's incursion in Ukraine, which President Petro Poroshenko has said is headed toward a great war of the likes Europe has yet to see. Connie Kim, Arirang News.
And on to the online security thread, intimate photos of an estimated 100 celebrities have been leaked, raising major security concerns. The FBI says it is addressing the matter, and Apple, whose iCloud storage service is under suspicion for being the hacked network, says it is also investigating. Our Yoo Yan has this next story.
Nude photos of Oscar-winning actress Jennifer Lawrence and pop star Rihanna were among the private photos of celebrities that turned up on the website 4chan. A spokesperson for Lawrence confirmed the authenticity of the images and slammed the hackers for a flagrant violence of privacy and vowed to prosecute anyone who shared the images online. Actress Mary Elizabeth Winstead, who also had her intimate photos leaked, criticized the people who posted and viewed her photos and said they were taken in privacy of her and her husband's home. The anonymous user who leaked the photos claimed they were obtained from Apple's iCloud accounts, sparking fears about the safety and security of the service. When activated, the iCloud service automatically uploads photos, emails, and contacts on your smartphone to multiple electronic devices, including tablet PCs and laptops. Apple released a brief statement on Monday saying it takes user privacy seriously and is currently actively investigating the report. If the hackers are caught, they could serve some major jail time. Christopher Cheney, who was found to have leaked nude photos of celebrities like Scarlett Johansson, was sentenced to 10 years behind bars. Yurian, Arirang News.
In the year 2012 for Korea was at its record high.
All of the day's important events close to home and around the world. Join Laah Hyun-kyung live from Seoul.
Shopping market thinks the true meaning of creation shines through. Korea's consumer prices grew at the slowest pace in 4 months in August. Statistics Korea says the index rose 1.4% last month from a year ago, slowing from July's 1.6% gain. The agency attributed not so high numbers to a slowdown in the price increase of farm produce and energy product prices. The price of agricultural products tumbled, as a matter of fact, almost 5% last month from a year earlier. The finance ministry expects the nation's inflation rate to remain steady unless bad weather conditions cause major disruptions to the prices of farming goods. The rapidly changing e-banking environment, along with the sector's efforts to maximize profitability, has prompted banks in the nation to cut down on the number of their branches. Some 270 have gone within the past year. Song Ji-sun tells us more.
1 out of every 20 bank branches have closed down over the past year. As of the end of July, the total number of bank branches in Korea stood at just over 5,100, down 5% from a year earlier. That's the biggest decrease in 17 years. The 1997 Asian financial crisis that folded 5 small-sized banks and shuttered nearly 1,000 branches triggered a chain of murders among Korean banks. The move was followed by major restructuring that closed down more branches, and internet banking and automation have further reduced their number. Bank of Korea data shows that only 11% of all money transfers were made through counters at bank branches, with the rest handled through computers, smartphones, ATMs, or telephones. Such changes led to a reduction in workforce in the industry. Major banks in Korea such as KB, Shinhan, Hana, Korea Exchange, Standard Chartered, and Citibank reduced their workforce by an average of 3% last year. The umbrella group of banking labor unions has called for a one-day strike on Wednesday by bank employees to back their demand of ensuring employment. Song Ji-sun, Arirang News.
In a bid to breathe new life into Korea's real estate market, the government has put forth measures to ease regulations and to scrap old laws. The Land Ministry says starting as early as the latter half of next year, housing units that were built between 20 to 30 years ago will be subject to reconstruction or redevelopment compared to the current 40 years set by a number of local governments, including Seoul and nearby Gyeonggi-do province. The move, aimed at encouraging development by private investors and homeowners, also includes allowing for reconstruction or redevelopment of units that are more than 20 years old, even if they don't have any safety issues. In order to tackle the housing oversupply, the government will also abolish a 34-year-old law that permits the establishment of large-scale residential towns like Pundang and Ilsan. Now, the concept of the so-called sharing economy has been around for quite some time now. Although a late starter, Korea's peer-to-peer marketplace is also growing quickly. Our Kim Ji-yeon reports on what the sharing economy looks like here.
Green Car is a car-sharing service founded in 2011 that makes it easier for people to lend out cars at low prices. It's one of the most prominent examples of the sharing economy in Korea, in which people become more like users than owners of assets. Around 240,000 people have used this service so far. All it takes is a few taps on a smartphone application.
It's really easy to use this car sharing service. It's only $3 for using this Avante model for 30 minutes.
Users are instantly updated on what kind of vehicles are available in one of the so-called green zones, locations where people can pick up and drop off their vehicles after they're done using them. There are 700 green zones throughout the country, and so it takes just 10 minutes by foot on average to reach one. Green Car Marketing and Communications Director Yang Song-sik says that technological developments have allowed the convergence of the appropriate hardware and software, providing the best platform for the car-sharing service.
The technological advances make it easier for us to operate as platform providers for vehicles. GPS allows us to track where the vehicles are and who's using them, and through the smartphone application, users can easily lock and unlock the cars they wish to use.
Companies like Green Car are using their sharing economy to find ways to utilize idle assets and providing a platform to make them more resourceful. Kim Jeong, Arirang News.
In other news, the Asia-Pacific region consumes roughly 60% of the world's energy output, and demand is on the rise. So to help enhance cooperation, the APEC energy ministers have gathered in Beijing for a two-day meeting. There, Korea's second Vice Minister of Trade, Industry and Energy, Moon Jae-do, emphasized the need for cheaper gas supplies to Asian countries, pointing to the fact that Europe pays less than Asia. APEC members agreed to enhance cooperation to deal with gas as well as oil price fluctuations by diversifying their energy supply methods. Now, the meeting will focus on energy security, trade and investment, improving efficiency, and developing clean and renewable energy technologies. And on to another global meeting. Achieving gender equality in Asia is especially more difficult compared to any other countries because perhaps of its Confucian-based culture. To address the gender gap in the region, a forum is currently underway in Seoul. Our Shin Se-min has this story.
25 women from 17 countries who are prominent in their fields have gathered in Seoul for the Asia Women Leaders Program, where the priority will be on addressing gender gaps mainly in the Asia-Pacific region. Astrid Tuminas, who is regional director for Microsoft, opened the forum with a keynote address. In it, she said that having more educated women doesn't necessarily translate into more women leaders, particularly in Asia, because of cultural factors. She called on companies and corporations to take the initiative and invest in women as a resource.
Corporations should make the time and space and give the resources because they can't afford not to. Why can't corporations afford not to? First, there is a shortage of human talent, a shortage of human capital. And as the labor force shrinks, you are going to have to draw your talent from the women.
According to a recent report by the Korean Women's Development Institute, which is hosting the forum, Korea's lagging female economic participation rate over the past 13 years has amounted to $192 billion in social costs. And while Korea has invested in trying to narrow the gender gap in the workplace, one of the forum's participants says instituting change goes beyond a set of policies.
Government funds and support systems should not just be announced. They must be implemented and permeate a company's culture. Companies should not just follow these policies. They must also consider the distinctive characteristics of women. An understanding and thoughtful culture should be implemented.
The chairman of Industrial Bank of Korea says guaranteeing a balanced work life for women will eventually become a great asset that will increase the nation's competitiveness globally. Shin Se-min, Arirang News.
Korea's ballet culture has developed quite rapidly over the past few decades for multiple reasons, one being an open exchange program. Now today, our Im Yoon-hee joins me with a look at a recent ballet festival that has become a major source of these exchanges. Good afternoon, Yoon-hee.
Good afternoon, right. So lately, I feel like we've been seeing a lot of exhibitions and festivals. You know, before the holidays, I think people are trying to get in their arts and culture dose. But today, I have the K Ballet World, which is currently underway. Now, this is takes place at Daeangno, which is a very artsy neighborhood, and this year they've welcomed some of the top ballet troupes from around the world, so take a look.
Ballet is one of the world's most recognized forms of dance, celebrated for its beauty, its grace, and its capacity for the exquisite. Anything from the classical to the contemporary, it's time once again for the K-Ballet World Annual Gathering of ballet students and dancers from some of Korea's top ballet troupes, as well as from around the world.
Through this relationship with foreign countries, we can develop the culture of Korean ballet. It's also a great opportunity for choreographers to stage their works to a wide audience, including those abroad, as this year's theme is Korean ballet to the world and world ballet to Korea.
The ballet extravaganza was established specifically for the development of Korean ballet through exchanges with companies around the globe. And it's through these relationships and networks that have enabled Korean dancers to excel in both the classical and modern forms of ballet. Dancer Seo Deok-in has a family history of ballet in Korea, but he himself went abroad to learn the techniques used around the world. And as a result, he now has a better understanding of the similarities as well as the differences between ballet cultures, a knowledge he can use to strengthen his own career.
Especially in Asia, they're more technical people. They're more kind of speedy and more active. They do like this kind of stuff. In Europe, they're more details, slow and more emotional. They speak like this, slow and more emotional, and this kind of stuff. So, well, I prefer Europe because this is my style, but well, it depends of the people.
As with anything, preference will always vary. But one thing is undeniable, and that is the fact that Korean ballet dancers have advanced through the art in just a short span of time, demonstrating extreme technique and strength, which has gained the Korean ballet culture recognition in the global community.
So as it is the case with any genre, I mean, it will be a good opportunity. It is a good opportunity for Korean ballet performers to engage with other
dancers,
dancers around the world.
To exchange with others. But you know what? Also, this is a great opportunity for local choreographers. And so the president was actually telling me that this festival, or this K-Ballet World, is not just for the dancers, but it's also for the choreographers, up-and-coming choreographers of Korea to really showcase what they have, the talent they have to, in the ballet field to offer in the ballet world.
And you said there was a special performance.
Right. They do have a very special performance planned for tonight. So they're calling it the Ballet Project 4050, and it involves performances by those in their 40s and 50s.
So usually you would think maybe teenagers would still be an old age to be considered as a ballet dancer.
Right. So ballet dancers are usually on the younger side, and so this project is especially important for this K-Ballet World because it really does give everyone a chance to take the stage. And so while I was talking to some of the dancers, many of them really said that when you go into professional dance, you have to expect the retirement age to be around 35, and that's very young. And so there are still people who are very passionate about their dance. And so this is a perfect place for them to really take the stage once again. And this whole project really just combines lots of different dancers from all different walks of life, from all different parts of the world too.
And it's not too late for us either.
Exactly. We could join pretty soon.
Yes.
Sign up for tonight.
Yes. All right. Thank you very much, Uni, for today's report.
It was a pleasure.
Good afternoon, I'm Michelle Park here with the latest weather forecast. It's currently sunny outside, but heavy clouds are moving in from the south where rain is about to start. And the precipitation is forecast to start on Jeju Island and then gradually expand through the mainland by this evening from today until Thursday. And we can expect up to 100 millimeters from the southern regions to Chungcheongbuk-do province and about 120 in the central region and the surrounding regions as well. Now going over to our temperature readings, Seoul will top out the afternoon at 27 degrees. Meanwhile, the southern cities such as Gwangju and Busan will top out at 26 and 25 degrees. Now moving over to other regions, Jeju Island tops over to 26 as well, while Dokdo and Mangungang will be cooler at 23. Now that's all for now. I'm Michelle Park and back to you, Hyun-kyung.
All right, thank you very much, Michelle, for that. And that's all we have for you now. Thank you for watching. Our next newscast is at 4 p.m. Korea time. I'll see you then.